What is good, guys? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with the economic calendar moving forward, what's going on with other factors involving the markets, and what you should be watching for as time goes on. But before I break the devil's information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Mumu link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moon deposit $100, you are guaranteed 7 free stocks. The offer ends very, very soon in just about 12 days from now. Anyways, for Tesla, I just wanted to mention that Tesla has a very interesting structure right here. We've seen quite a bit of consolidation for the past 2 days as it's just kind of trading sideways in this range, very close to our key EMAs in the hourly time frame. As Tesla's trading sideways, I do anticipate a very, very big move that's coming. Could happen as soon as tomorrow. So we'll see which way Tesla breaks, and I'll be talking more about that a little bit later on in the video. But I first want to talk about some important data. So today is Thursday, May 16th. By the way, we had initial jobless claims and important jobs numbers that came out. Everything was very, very close to expectations, which is part of why the market continued to rally. We saw SPY break new all-time highs. The S&P 500 continued to push alongside the NASDAQ, the Dow, and many other indices. And the market's holding up very well. However, we did see a little rejection as the day went on, and we'll have to see if we get a follow-through move or not. So I'll break down more details about that as well. For tomorrow, tomorrow is going to be Friday, May 17th, 2024 at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 45 minutes after the market opens tomorrow. We have Waller from the Fed giving a speech. And besides that, all the data is going to be very, very minor as we just have some oil rig data and nothing else that's too crazy. And by the way, for earnings, guys, so we're about to conclude this week for earnings. There's not really a whole lot coming out. We just had Applied Materials come out after the market closed today. Earlier on, we had Walmart, JD, John Deere, and a few others. Walmart did relatively well in earnings. I actually broke that down in my morning video. And besides that, we just have RBC and just a few others announcing earnings tomorrow. Very, very minor data. Nothing too crazy, in my personal opinion, for tomorrow. Now, for SPY, I want to call out that right here, I have this highlighted right here. The put to call ratio is actually relatively high. So we have just under 800,000 calls expiring, and we have over 3.4 million puts expiring for a 4.37 puts to call ratio. Now, are we going to see the bears fight back, try to get more of their puts in the money, or are we about to see the market continue to squeeze shorts? That's going to depend on how we end up reacting to some key levels and what we see from buyers. So I'll break down more data about that. Right now, the market is quite greedy as buyers are continuing to dominate. Market momentum is still greedy as buyers have the edge. And then when it comes to other factors, the puts and call option positioning is currently at the 0.7 ratio because of the fact that more of these puts are being closed. Calls are still making up the majority of positions overall. And we're continuing to see more and more buyers defending and buying up the markets. Now, despite that happening, the puts and call options positioning is getting very, very close to levels that we've seen this bounce off of as more, puts start stepping in, more sellers start stepping in. So I'll be watching that very carefully. The last thing is the VIX. The VIX is continuing to fall, but we're just shuffling around that 12.4 area. We will see if the VIX gets a break or not. So I'll be very, very patient nonetheless. For more data, Dow futures are a little changed after the blue chip average has touched the 40,000 mark for the first time. That's very important as, once again, futures and indices are continuing to push. But despite that, guys, others out there are now at some type of resistance levels. And we can really see how resistance kind of like fought the market today as things are getting tighter and tighter and tighter. So we'll see what happens as things kind of develop so far. Now, one more thing about Tesla. We have some good news that came out. Tesla has won its approval for the Gigafactory Berlin expansion in Germany. This is why we saw a lot of protests in Germany. But this is great news for them because this meeting took place in a very important district under police protection, of course, because protests again continued against the expansion because many people believe that it's going to be very negative for the water supply and the environment. Elon Musk has kind of like instigated that it's very suspicious in his opinion as other car companies don't get as many protests, but it could be because of a lot of different things. I'm not really going to go down that route. It's just based off what Musk said very recently. So moving forward, guys, I just want to make it very clear that a lot of people are now very excited about this getting their approval. That's very necessary. And they gave a very important presentation with the vote that just came out. 11 out of the 19 that voted yes for this are in support of Tesla's expansion. That's some good news for them. And we'll see what else ends up developing from here. So that's something else worth noting. This is going to once again help supplement about 40,000 employees in total. And there's going to be a potential capacity of about 2 million units annually. So that's actually going to be a lot of growth that they're developing. Currently, I believe that right now they're currently at about 500,000 vehicles in capacity right now. So they're trying to expand that, and that's going to be very important for them. It's going to help them grow a lot in Europe. So it's big news for Tesla. That's why Tesla kind of popped a little bit today, but then it just traded sideways. Cantor Fitzgerald gave Tesla an overweight rating, saying it's going to outperform the market. In terms of other pieces of data, for some reason, I think the website is down right now. I'll try to reload this just to hope to see if we get something. But besides that, just know that Fridays are green only about 52% of the time for Tesla. Nothing too crazy like that. And then we also tend to see more volatility at 10 o'clock a.m., around noon, and then also around the later hours of the day, but nothing too crazy. And besides that, there's been a lot of talk about the volume. It's currently at about 60 million. So it's actually a little below average. So we're getting low volume on Tesla. That's why it's kind of trading sideways and consolidating. So usually we consolidate for a few days and we see a big move. So we'll see what the big move is either tomorrow or by Monday. But for Tesla, I just want to call out two possibilities. So one issue for Tesla is that we have a possible head and shoulders like structure. Now, these could be traps sometimes, or they could be legitimate. So we'll have to wait and see what ends up happening. Tesla's kind of shuffling right over here. It's very indecisive. So if we get a move to the downside, watch 172 as key support. If we lose this, we could be dipping all the way down to 168 to fill this gap down below, as the head and shoulders will have some merit. However, if the opposite happens, if we get a big bounce, we'll have to be looking for 176's resistance to be broken. If we break that, we're going to be pushing all the way up towards 178. Now, with the head and shoulders that's kind of like forming right now, there is a risk of Tesla potentially getting rejection. So I'm just going to be very open minded. If we do dip to about 172, we'll have to see if we get a bounce or not. And we'll just be open minded no matter what ends up happening, what news comes out tomorrow morning. But I just want to say right now that just be very, very careful with this head and shoulders. We'll see if this plays out or not. Sometimes these are traps, especially this year. So we'll see if Tesla gets a bounce or not. I'm just going to be very, very unbiased for now and just wait and see what the big move is. But because right now it's just kind of consolidating, not really decisive in direction. So what you want to do during times like this is just wait and see. That's the best thing I could tell you about Tesla. Now, for other tickers, the whole technicals are very different. As far as SPY goes, SPY got a nice little bearish divergence that developed in the charts, and we're approaching some very, very critical resistance at basically 531.5. But the issue is SPY really struggled to break through this area and get a breakout. So it kind of rejected here. We lost 529.5. We're actually a little bit into 528s right now. So this kind of signifies that there's a little bit of weakness, at least on the chart. And with this weakness that has developed, there is a chance that we could get a follow-through move tomorrow. Technicals, especially when you look at the 4-hour time frame and such, they look a little bit more bearish for SPY and Nvidia, at least for now. With this happening, I just want to call out that when we look at the different time frames, especially the 4-hour time frame, SPY looks a little bit more bearish. It is a kind of rejecting right here, so it could dip a bit more. But the thing is, that does not mean that SPY is going to crash, because SPY broke all-time highs today, and that means that the buyers are still around. The bulls are still present. They're still very strong. I wouldn't necessarily rule them out. So what does this mean? We have resistance at 529, 529.5, and 530. We have support at 528. If we lose that, watch 526.6 and our 50 EMA. I think that tomorrow SPY is going to kind of pop a bit and make its way back down to 528, kind of shuffle here. And then we'll have to see if buyers defend us to push us back to 530, just shuffle between 530 and 528. Or if we lose 528, we're going to be dipping down to 526. So look for a little pop and drop like move to 528 and watch and see what we do from there. If we lose it, we're going to be dipping more. If we bounce off this, the buyers could defend us. So that's what I think is going to likely happen for tomorrow. We'll just have to wait and see. But look for a little dip on SPY. Same thing on the QQQ. Might retest the 452.75 area. I think it's going to be very close to our 20 EMA. If we get this rejection, we're going to be tipping all the way down towards 451.25. If we break through this, we'll see 453. I think it's going to be testing this resistance and start dipping back down towards basically 451.25, this whole area right here. And if we lose this, 450 is going to likely be coming. So I do see a little potential for a dip, a little pop and drop, but watch to see how well we hold around this 451 zone. Do we pop and drop and then bounce off 451, or do we lose and start sinking all the way down to 450? We'll just have to wait and see. But I do anticipate a little bit of downside nonetheless. So just be very, very open-minded moving forward. For Nvidia, the chart looks a little bit weak. Look at resistance at 944. I did call this support out today as Nvidia was turning. And then on top of this, I think that if we end up getting a rejection, we could be actually dipping all the way down towards 932. If we break through this, we're going to be pushing up. So watch for a test of 944. If we break this, we go higher. If it rejects here, we're going to be dipping back down lower. I do favor that we might actually kind of pop and then reject a little bit and dip a little bit more, but it might not be forever. It could kind of like pop and then drop and then eventually bounce later. So watch for that very, very carefully. For Apple stock, Apple is trading very sideways within the range. We have a tendency to get rejected off 190.5, and we have support at 189. We'll have to see which way we break. If we lose 189, we're going to be dipping all the way down to 188.64. And if we lose that, we'll be dipping lower. And if we hold this support, we're going to be bouncing back up. I favor that this might actually kind of dip a little bit, so we'll have to see how things go from here. For other things, when it comes to Bitcoin, Bitcoin's in a very, very interesting place. As you can see, BTC is kind of testing our 20 EMA. If we reject here, we could be making a move back down towards 60, 64,786. So we'll be watching to see if we end up testing that level. So look for a little rejection here. It is looking a little bit weak from that end. With that being said, guys, that is it for the main five I typically talk about. Now let me talk about some other tickers. I know a lot of people are interested in NEO. NEO is kind of on a downtrend right here. It might actually retest our 20 to 50 EMA, then reject and start coming back down to fill this gap all the way down towards 5.09. So look for a little pop and drop like move. I find that to be very, very probable, at least for the chart, in my opinion. And then if I switch over to the 4-hour, you could see how this is kind of dictating price action. The 4-hour does also show more potential for shifts here and there. So we'll have to see if that ends up being the case. Moving forward, we also have Palantir. On the 4-hour, it's kind of just consolidating right here. It does look a little bit more like there's an accumulation forming. So it might actually try to test 22. We'll have to see if that breaks. If it does look at 22.17, then higher levels. If it rejects off the 22s, we could be dipping all the way down towards 21.5, then lower levels. But this chart is looking like it has a little potential for 22. So we'll have to see what happens after that. In my personal opinion, there is potential. So we'll see what happens. And we want to be very, very open-minded nonetheless. Excuse me. For Super Micro, I know a lot of people are interested in this. We're really struggling at this 975 area to kind of hold here, since this is where our imbalance happened to be. If we broke through this, we would have been looking for 1,000, but since we came short, we're looking at support currently right here at around 900. If we rebound a little bit, I think we might rebound just a bit, and then we could reject. And if we end up losing this 900 support, we're going to be dipping all the way down to at least 880. If we hold 900, we're going to be trying to rebound. I favor that it might actually kind of pop a bit and then eventually come back down to 900. And we'll see if it loses that. It might actually dip a little bit lower to 880 if we end up losing it. So watch and see just to be safe. For Rivian, we have a head and shoulders on the 4-hour. We're looking a little bit more bearish. If we continue this follow through move down, we could be dipping all the way down to 9.5 if we lose 10. So watch and see how that ends up holding. I think we might retest 10.25, then reject to come back down to 10. We'll see what the move is from there. For other tickers such as SoFi's on a bit of a downtrend right here. We got this nice little liquidity grab in the very beginning. We could be dipping all the way down towards this imbalance up here around the 7 area. So I think that it's a little bit more bearish looking. We could be sinking towards 7 very, very soon. For the IWM Russell 2000, we called out 207 as a critical support. That's exactly where we happen to be. If we end up losing this, we're going to be looking for a move all the way down to 207 flats. And if that fails us, we could be coming down to fill this gap at 205. I favor that what's going to happen is we're going to dip a little bit towards our 20 EMA in the 207 flat area, rebound a bit, then eventually make our way down lower to 205. But then we could bounce off of that. So look for a dip to 207, a little rebound, and a more of a continuation lower, and then we'll see what ends up happening moving forward. On top of all of this, I just want to call out the AMD chart. AMD is also looking a little bit weak as we're just barely holding our 200 EMA. If we lose the 200 EMA, that's going to be support at 162. I expect it to be dipping all the way down towards 158. If we hold 162, we could be rebounding and trying to push up to 165. So we'll see if we get a rejection or not and how we end up moving forward. For ARM, we have support currently at 113. If we lose this, look for 111. And if we end up bouncing off this, we could rebound, but there is a chance that it might actually dip a little bit more towards 113 than 111. So we'll have to see what happens at least moving forward. For Coinbase may actually dip a little bit more in my personal opinion. We'll be looking at this support all the way down here towards this. Let me just double check this. So we have 200 as our support. If we lose 200, look for 192. If we bounce off this, we're going to be looking for 208. And we're kind of stuck in the middle. So give this a little bit more time and we'll see what happens with that. I think it might kind of pop a bit and eventually retest this support. We have a bearish looking daily candlestick. So I do think it's going to be dipping lower towards 192. But if we lose 200, that's going to be our confirmation. So watch for that first. On top of all of this, we're looking a little bit weaker on Amazon. We have 183 as supports. If we lose this, we're going to be dipping all the way down towards 180 flat. And we have resistance at 185. I think it might pop a bit and eventually start sinking towards 180. I find that to be very, very probable. For Meta, we're also dipping a bit. We have the 50 EMA at 468. If we lose that, we're going to be dipping towards 465. And we have resistance at 478. I favor that this is going to form a bearish divergence and start dipping a little bit more towards 468. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. For Microsoft is dipping a bit. I think we might be retesting our 20 EMA. So this 418 area may be tested. where the 20 EMA happens to be, and then we'll see if we get a bounce or not off of that. So one thing worth noting is that Microsoft is very strong, guys. The trend is still bullish overall. It's on a very, very nice uptrend, but we might dip first and then try to get a bounce afterwards. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. So look for a test of our 20 EMA at this 418 zone and a bounce moving forward. For Google, in my personal opinion, is looking very, very interesting. Looking at the price action, you guys can see right here that, wait, hold on one second, guys. Sorry about that. Google is kind of stuck, at least within a very, very important range. It's been kind of trying to push a little bit higher. And if we end up getting rejects off 175, we're going to be dipping down to 172.5. If we end up holding 175, we could push higher. I think it might dip a bit towards 172.5, then rebound after that. So we'll have to see what happens there. For GameStop, it's looking a bit more bearish to me. We're going to be looking at the 50 EMA at 25. Might rebound a bit and eventually sink towards 25. I find that to be very probable. AMC is also the same. Might retest 5.18 and reject to come down to 4.41. I find that to be very probable as well. For DJT, I know a lot of people are interested in this one. We have a gap to fill down here around 51, so it might dip a little bit, then come back up and just continue to trade sideways. So look for a test of 51 and a bounce and continued sideways price action. For the VIX loves to kind of hold this 12.4 area. We've been stuck here as support for almost the entire year. We like to bounce off of this. So we'll see if we get a bounce off 12.4 or not, if this does highlight a market potential rejection, but there's no sign just yet of this kind of bouncing. I do want to call out, though, that right now we're kind of developing a bullish divergence on the VIX. That does suggest it might bounce, but nothing is guaranteed. We'll see how it reacts to this. See this this long yellow line right here in the bottom. That's 12.4. We'll see if the VIX bounces off this. Every time this year does bounce off this, which suggests that the market's going to top. So we will wait and see, and I'll be very patient nonetheless. For the 10-year Treasury yield, we have a nice gap above to fill. This has been heavily dictated by the Fed. We'll see what the Fed causes. Does the Fed cause the market to kind of dip a bit and this bounces or not? This may actually be very important for the next couple of weeks, so we'll see what happens after that. And then last but not least, we have the dollar index. The dollar looks a little bit more bullish, might retest 104.72 for a little pop. And if it goes a little bit higher, we'll see what happens with that, since we were holding support at 104 quite nicely. So watch and see how things go. For Tesla, guys, I'm going to be very patient with Tesla. Let's be very patient. The charts overall is very flat right now. We will see if Tesla ends up getting a big bounce or not. There is a possibility it also sinks. So just wait and see what the big move is. If we lose 172, we're bearish. We're going to be sinking down to 168. If we manage to break above 175, I'm going to be looking for 176, and a break of that takes us to 178 to 180. So I'm going to be completely unbiased and wait and see what happens. But just know that for now, Tesla's holding up very, very well. And so far, we just have to wait and see. With that being said, that's it for the video. I have to be very, very simple in this one. Always be very, very patient when it comes to trading and such, because patience is a virtue. And once again, guys, let me just say that I really love what I do. I really enjoy the work that I do, and I hope that you guys enjoy the value that I'm trying to provide for you. So please remember to smash the like button, subscribe if you're interested in seeing more videos like this. And with that being said, I'll see you guys very soon, at least on the next ones. Thank you for listening, guys. Have an absolutely incredible rest of the day. I'll be back tomorrow morning during the pre-market session to give you guys another update. And we'll see what the market looks, at least for them. The market is going to be very, very quiet in terms of data for the end of this week. And we'll see what happens. Do not forget that SPY has a lot of these options expiring. So I'm ready for that. And I'll see you guys tomorrow before the market opens very, very early in the morning. All right. Thank you for listening. Have an absolutely incredible rest of the day. Enjoy your evening. Enjoy your night, whatever time it is for you. And I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow morning. Thank you again, and peace out.